other time. But let's get back to this game first of all, because the game has indeed started.
Yeah, Lostov uncrashed and he picked up an innervate in the process. Yeah, I like Lostov's hand right now. The Wrath is going to give him a lot of breathing room, and the Innervate is going to give him the ability to outrace his opponent very fast. Dog would probably like to find a freezing. Well, speaking of the devil...
Yeah. Well, Dog would rather find like a mad scientist, for instance. But I guess he'll take the freezing.
Yeah, I'm happy enough with freezing trap, I think. Because the problem with mad scientist, I guess in this weird case, is that you end up having to trade it away to return to the hand the minion that you're trading into.
Yeah, that's right.
I think this early it might be just better to have the trap, but there is definitely a point where you want the mad scientist instead, when you're making a full trade with it.
Yeah, overall this seems to be quite a weak start from Dog, and on the other side of the coin, Lostov, he has the coin, and not only that, he has a Wild Growth and an Innervate, and he also has a Wrath in order to deal with whatever big minion comes out later on. So just overall, this matchup looks to be pretty good for Lostov.
Yeah, is Lostov going to coin Innervate out the Shredder and then go for turn 2 Wild Growth? Or is he just going to coin out Hero Power to kill this and play Wild Growth on 2? Oh, well there goes. Never mind. Why do I even ask questions?
Yeah.
But he does go for the Hero Power. I really like this play because it's not putting him off curve the way that getting the Shredder out and then using Growth, and then if he had another drop to play afterwards, I think that would have been a fine play.
Yeah. In general as well, you want to use the Wrath in order to deal 3 damage in this matchup to get back tempo.
Yeah.
Especially since you seem to have the higher quality hand at this point.
Alright, Lostov with the opportunity again, the same opportunity to go for the Shredder play, but he's got to know that that's a little... I mean, it's only weak to Quick Shot or Bow, but those are two things you almost can't afford running into.
Yeah. I think the thing is, if you don't Wild Growth this turn, when are you going to Wild Growth?
Pretty much never.
Yeah.
But he kind of accepted that fact by going for turn 1 coin Hero Power, which was good for value, but also gave him the opportunity to be in a position where it's a bit clunky to use the Growth. Yeah, his Innervate is just so much better here as well. Instead of being wasted on playing a Shredder, he's going to be able to get 7-drop a lot earlier and curve very nicely until then.
Yeah. How much does Dog value playing on curve in this scenario?
I like the Bow a lot because you're guaranteed to get a trap from the Mad Scientist. If you play Snake, this might even be a lot better. Like, there's so many things that could go well. Dog is also spreading the Keeper of the Grove threats, so that if Lostov were holding a Keeper, he wouldn't be able to kill everything.
Yeah. Keeper of the Grove would be pretty punishing here.
Yeah, which is why Dog went for the Juggler play, I think. Wants to have something left over.
Oh. And not only that, I think if Lostov had a Keeper of the Grove, I'm not sure if Dog could win. It's just too much. And Dog's, again, he's turning the aggression on. He's seeing that he needs to get a little lucky in order for him to win, because if he just plays slow instead of equipping a bow, maybe he won't be able to get the damage in. Whereas this, he has the opportunity for that Knife Juggler to get in at least 3 extra damage.
Alright, so down goes the Shredder, and he's going to play the Wrath with it. Looks like it's going to make sense for him to do so. Dog, how does he feel? I think he's okay with this overall, though. I mean, you can always play Freezing Trap, Hero Power, and attack phase.
Yeah.
But you lose the bow charge from that. Yeah. Oh man, it hurts to see this, but then again, the alternatives aren't exactly good either.
Yeah. Dog is also going to be really sad when he sees this Druid of the Claw coming down. He really doesn't have a great answer against it. And he's going to have to use a lot of his resources efficiently, perhaps even kill commanding a Druid of the Claw, which you certainly don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking really awful for Dog. Just because he's so off curve, what does he need to pick up next turn that would really turn things around? A Quick Shot would help a lot, because you would be able to use Bow plus Quick Shot, and then you can maybe keep, you know, if you get a second trap from Mad Scientist, you'd be okay.
Yeah. An Abusive Sergeant would even be pretty decent here. as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards that Dog is looking for. Hunter's Mark would also not be half bad, but
Yeah.
it's
Typically,
not perfect, but it's okay.
Yeah. Typically, though, the hybrid hunters don't run Hunter's Mark, though.
Right. Yeah. There's still a lot of pressure coming from Dog, though. I mean, we know he's got an Arcane Golem left in his deck, and there's a lot of face damage. And unfortunately for Lostov, for Lostov, this Lotheb doesn't really do that much.
Yeah. So Lotheb here, it contests an opposing Lotheb well, and it also has the potential to contest the high main that will come up on turn 6 pretty well. It locks down a few other things like Animal Companion as well, for instance.
Yeah, I feel like Dog's play here depends hugely on whether or not he's got another Freezing Trap in there. But you need to push for damage at some point, right? Like, this is such a weird matchup. If he taunts up, you have almost no way to come back on the board if there's a taunt coming up. Man, he didn't weave in that hero power. I guess he doesn't value the extra 2 damage over the Leper Gnome. Interesting.
I mean, the Leper Gnome is kind of equivalent anyway, and there's he has to take some kind of risk here. He has to hope that the Leper Gnome is able to get in 2 extra damage.
Yeah, and if he does, it's actually going to be a really big deal because it's 2 hero powers instead of just the 1. And it's forcing his opponent to also play a little more defensively. As a result of playing the Leper Gnome, Lostov is forced into expending mana into actions that he otherwise might not want to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
makes sense. Never mind. Like, I pointed it out, but I think now that we talk about it, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so maybe Lostov feels threatened enough to play a swipe this turn instead of going for a keeper, which I think he would have done so, or instead of playing the Druid of the Claw, which he would have done so otherwise. But no, I think this is still the better play.
Wow, okay, this could be a blowout, right? If it's Leok, you get to trade and kill command. You could even go for Unleash if it's Leok. If it's Huffer, you get to trade. If it's Misha, though, if it's Misha, you then have to kill command, trade the Scientist, and if it's Freezing Trap, you're pretty golden. I think all Animal Companions are sort of okay here.
Is there a scenario where you don't go for the Animal Companion, though? Like, let's say you can go for Unleash and then clear the entire board with a kill command.
With a kill command, yeah.
It feels weak since your remaining board is just a couple of hounds.
Yeah, the problem is you don't get to really deal face damage as much as you'd like, probably. So do you just kill command and keep I mean, if there was a Keeper of the Grove, you would have seen it. So keeping Huffer alive might be justifiable just because of that.
Yeah. There's so many turns, pretty much every turn in this game where Keeper of the Grove would have been the best play if he had it over whatever Lostov played.
Yeah. So kill command looks perfect with the Mad Scientist. You get the bow charge, you get the hit face with Huffer.
Face.
Smork. Oh, Doug goes for the face again, realizes I don't really need that extra charge. What was that secret, by the way? I missed it. Was it another freezing? Well. Okay, freezing as well. Oh, you missed it. I think it might have been a bear trap. We saw a bear trap from... Was it from Lostov earlier? Against? No, I think it was Doug. I'm pretty sure it was Doug.
I'm pretty sure it was Lostov, actually.
Okay, because against Stansifka...
Yeah, Lostov definitely had a bear trap against Stansifka. Remember when Stansifka, he attacked with the Paladin and a bear trap came out?
Came out, yeah, that's what it was. It was like an 8-6 BGH. Running into nothing. And Lostov is trying to figure out whether or not he can somehow get the game. He knows that he absolutely has to go for the swipe. Alright, more damage for Dog, and that's going to be lethal over the I think next turn with the second attack from the Glaivezuka. Should be able to seal it, unless Lostov picks up some healing. Like, Ancient of Lore is basically the out. That's it.
Yeah, the only out. Not even Ancient of War could do anything here. Ooh, that's not it, unfortunately. Is there any way...
You could bear trap. You can't even go for like Shredder or Savage Roar, buff it to 6, then PGH it. No, it's just not possible. You could armor up, but the Glaivezuka goes through. So whatever you do here, you have no way to taunt up. You have no way to prevent the 2 damage from hero power. And Dog will take it.
Yeah. He needed basically Ancient of Lore, exactly, or a Druid of the Claw plus hero power, and then he might have survived in that case.
Alright, so Dog already nails the win with the Hunter. It's not over yet, though. This is still very early. They've got, 3 decks left for Lostov. The Hunter's out, so the Warlock will have a bit of a better time, I think.
Yeah. So Warlock against Druid, I think at least these days it's 50-50 or at least close to 50-50. I think something that a lot of players don't realize is that mid-range Druid, even though it has the possibility of getting wild growth into BGH, statistically, it's actually the handlock that is more favored, since it's a lot of those times where when you get innervate into BGH or wild growth into BGH, you remember those games. Those games are blowouts.
Definitely.
Whereas like if you don't get BGH, those games kind of go on longer and they become close, but handlock usually wins out of those games.
All right, so we see Lostov with. I mean, both players have a pretty good hand here. Like, I won't lie, I think Dog's hand is pretty solid considering Lostov is gonna have a lot of 1/1s on the board. I mean, double Sorcerer Apprentice with a Flame Waker, and there's no way the Apprentice dies immediately. So there could be something like Sorcerer Apprentice on the coin, and then you play the second one and Frostbolt a minion, or you hold on to the coin for Flame Waker.
Yeah. I think generally one of the problems that the mage has, just in general, the Temple Mage, is that a lot of its early game minions are not really that sticky, and they're on their own, they're not really that powerful.
Yep.
Sorcerer's Apprentice really needs like a lot of help in order to get powerful, whereas cards like Mad Scientist and Haunted Creeper, on their own, they're very strong. So in a lot of scenarios, mage actually just loses out early on in the board, whereas if they keep the board, they have the potential to be really strong. Just overall, they can snowball a lot with Sorcerer's Apprentice plus Flame Waker plus a lot of spells. That can just blow out the game. But it's really the early turns that are really key, and it's gonna be this is gonna be where Dog is gonna struggle, I feel.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is that when you see a Tempo Mage just coin out a Sorcerer's Apprentice, my initial gut feeling is always the following: he's got another one. Because rarely do you coin out the first one without having the second one on the back end with a Flame Cannon or a Frostbolt or some kind of Arcane Missiles cleanup. So I think that's what Lostov realized immediately, and he's like, I have to trade into with the Web Spinner to guarantee that the 1/1s with the Creeper instead of Mad Scientist can clean it up.
Wow.
Putting all the chances on his side, he knows that there's a chance the bow is what Lostov uses to clean up both Sorcerer's Apprentices. Lostov could go for, pretty, I want to say crazy, but maybe it's not that crazy. Unleash the Hounds.
Yeah.
Is that
definitely
ever
a possibility. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we saw Dog go for this kind of play yesterday in the BlizzCon NA qualifiers. And when he did that, his hand was double Fireball.
Right.
His hand was double Fireball, Flame Cannon, Frostbolt. So he realized he would have to play to his hand essentially because he didn't have really any more minions. So if Lostov makes that kind of read, he's like, this Frostbolt play is kind of weird. I wonder if he has just a lot of burn spells in his hand. If he does that, maybe he values the using just the Unleash the Hound here, clearing off the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentices, so he saves that 3 extra damage to his face.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense if you're really afraid of dying, and I think you're still ahead on board. I mean, there's no way there can be something like Flame Waker, Arcane Missiles. There can't even be Flame Waker coin blowing you out of the game, so it's all going to be a bit of a slow play from the mage player from here on out. The Houndmaster's a bit dead in Lostov's hand, but it's a minion nonetheless that he can enable one of the beasts later. Yeah, that's scary though. Ironbeak Scientist? I mean, you kind of have to silence this, don't you?
Yeah, I do feel like you have to silence it. It's so threatening here. And I guess if you think about it, there's not too many other things to silence. There's the Shredders, of course, but beyond that, what else does Dog really have?
Next turn, the Flame Waker Frostbolt. Kill the owl, remove the beast. Or don't and try to play for value.
Yeah. I think if Dog was watching the first series, he would have seen that a Houndmaster was in Lostov's deck, at least one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ooh, is this going to be...
Leok time! Leok for the full clear would actually be amazing for Lostov. But he's only got 1 play this turn, right? So you can't You can't make one that would potentially lose you the game. I think Huffer is still overall pretty okay. It kind of works. Like, yeah, so he gets the Huffer. I was going to say, it kind of works out because you're forcing your opponent to play a bit more defensively, but Dog has the perfect answer.
Yep. Flame Waker into Frostbolt gives him a pretty dominating position. And the Hunter really doesn't have an answer for this. Like, he can throw down the high main, but the high main's actually not that good when you're behind on board and against like a lot. Oh.
Okay, not exact. Well, it might be the case that he will. Oh my god. Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say that would be crazy if that was a snake trap and he could punch phase and maybe reach for damage. But Lostov just picked up a free 3/3 that he can buff with the Houndmaster if he wants to.
Yeah, I think that's the play. Like,
yeah,
high main is good and all.
You could high main and trade Bear plus 1/1 into Flame Waker.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
The drawback is you give him a free ping, and he can then go face for 4 damage. And if you pin him on having more burn, then you're the one who's falling behind. But you have the Houndmaster as a backup plan, so it's still fine. Oh, Alec here, come out. That'd be a crazy outcome.
Demolisher.
What if it actually wins the game? How crazy would that be? The extra 2 damage.
Yeah, I guess it kind of acts like a taunt in some way.
Oh man. Unleash Houndmaster. That's 3, so 5 damage. 11, 12. Yeah, he can put Dog on almost dead position, and Dog doesn't really have anything to go through a high main. Yeah, I don't even know if he's possibly like even capable of doing it.
Yeah, the bear trap actually just changed everything in the previous turn.
Yeah.
We forgot that Lostov even had a secret up. At least I did.
I remembered it. I was hoping it was going to be a snake. And what I mean by hoping is that I was like, yeah, what if it's snake trap and Dog is actually able to not get punished by that trap and just gets to push? But, you know, it was bear trap, and that's pretty punishing. That's the reason I think mid-range Beast Druid is actually, Druid Hunter is actually pretty good now, is because bear trap always gives you a Ram Wrangler activator, and it always gives you an activator for Houndmaster, so you always have something to use when the opponent tries to smoke you down.
Let's see how these missiles are. Oh,
kind of underwhelming. He's gonna have to make a lot of weird trades.
Not only is it underwhelming, but those were 2 of the worst missiles ever.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to hit the Houndmaster, you don't want to hit face, and you would be happy for it to hit anything else besides that.
I think I think he's just dead on board no matter what, unless he kills the 2/2/2s, and then no, he's still dead on board. So he has to kill a hyena and the 4/2 with the shredder. Vitality told him, let's do this.
He's still dead, except if he gets a taunt or some kind of vitality totem, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, Lostov's going to take that one with the Hunter, so it's going to be a 1-to-1 series.
Yep.
It was actually pretty back and forth, honestly. Like, what really saved Lostov is having that web spinner early. Being able to deal 1 damage to the first Sorcerer's Apprentice and finish it off with a Creeper was a really big deal. Otherwise, he escalates the removal over 2 to 3 turns, and then everything kind of spirals out of control.
Yeah, not only that, but just the RNG on the Mad Scientist getting the bear trap was really important. I feel like if Lostov he had gotten like the snake trap instead of the bear trap, I think he just loses right there.
Yeah, it would have been a really big problem for him.
Yeah, it seemed like Dog's position at that point of the game was just so dominating. But once you add a 3/3 bear to the equation, it just changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, you have to trigger freezing as well in that case. If it were freezing, it would have also been better than that, because in this case, at least you keep the 2/4 on the board, and there is no way it gets removed unless a bow comes out, and you get to replay the shredder afterwards. Uh-oh, Dog with a double Sorcerer's Apprentice opener again.
Yeah, very, very aggressive.
Yeah, find the mirror image, maybe. Mana Worm would be the best, but
mirror image actually isn't that great in
against
the matchup.
Yeah,
most of like these clears will probably, like, if Lostov wants to deal with the Sorcerer's Apprentices, most likely he'll either have to Dark Bomb it or Hellfire it. It's not like Lostov is going to hit it with a minion unless it's on turn 5 at least.
Alright, so Dog gets to curve-ish. I mean, yeah, it's a curve. I guess Flame Waker would be slightly better, or would it be next turn? What would you play? On turn 3, if you had Flame Waker in your hand, would you play Flame Waker or the second Sorcerers?
That's a good question. I think Flame Waker, simply because it represents more of a threat, kind of. And also, it's 4 HP. So it really isn't as vulnerable to a Hellfire.
Oh man, Lostov's like, I want to play my Drake, but I don't want to play my Drake.
Yeah, but I don't want to die.
Yeah. Dog's like, okay, let's just extend to this. If he happens to have a Shadow Flame or a Hellfire, then so be it.
Ow.
And Lostov, I feel like there's going to be a turn from Lostov, which is going to be double Molten Lotheb, and then a Heal Bar on the following turn. And that's going to just seal it against Dog, I think.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, looks very dangerous though. Like, it looks like he's currently losing, but there's a really big swing turn if he lets himself take a bit more damage. But that's also very risky.
Is there a case to be made here to Ancient Watcher and then Owl the Ancient Watcher?
If he does that, he's dead. So maybe there's a case for it, but he's just dead.
Would he be dead?
Yeah, there's 10 on board. Well, I mean, you'd have to kill one of the sorcerers, I guess. So
yeah, obviously
he'd be like three. He'd be 3 off of dead. So maybe he'd live. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, or maybe you owl the piloted shredder and kill that off instead. Okay.
So the tap actually dealt damage to the warlock. So 6 damage.
I think you play the unstable portal.
Yeah, there could absolutely be a lethal off the unstable.
Nightblade? Oh.
Oh no, that would have been so nasty. I mean, Azure Drake into Frostbolt looks good. Do you take that, or is that too costly? How do you feel?
You definitely want to develop your board. The owl is actually really annoying here.
You could go, I guess, Shadow Boxer Ping into Fireball Frostbolt face and just smork everything and hope you top deck. I mean, it looks really awful, but it's forcing your opponent into removing the board, healing himself, and everything else. Like, it's kind of a mix of everything. So I guess you're just gonna Frostbolt down the Drake. Oh man, you can't throw away your burn. You can't throw away your burn. I don't see that.
Even trading the owl.
Wow. He's trying to surprise his opponent at least, and it's also playing around Molten pretty well. If you full smork it, you lose to Molten's pretty much, I want to say, immediately.
There's quite a few good turns for Lostov here, though.
Yeah. He can set up a variety.
Watcher, Sunfury, or Lotheb, or Sludge Belcher. I think all would prevent lethal. And all are fairly strong defensive plays. Sludge Belcher especially, there's not really a way for Dog to deal with the Sludge Belcher effectively. He doesn't really want to give up these fireballs because he knows eventually he'll need to use it to clear the board, or to go for like the remaining face damage.
What about Frostbolt trade Shredder, or just double minion, force him to have an AoE, and then keeping that burn for the face, I think, is going to be instrumental in Dog winning this. And like Mad Scientist represents a mirror entity, which scares Lostov. So there's that as well.
Yeah. The thing is, when you're playing against Handlock, you can't assume that they have everything, because if they have everything, there's no way you lose anyway.
Yeah. There's no way you can actually win it. It's impossible. Alright, so Lostov has the Emperor Thorson. He's just gonna smash it on the board. Is he just 60? Oh, whoa. He's not dead, but he's like 1 off lethal.
Yeah. One mana or 1 damage off lethal.
Right, both at the same time. If he goes for the Emperor, of course. There's also the possibility of just trading into the Scientist and then playing Lotheb and then going for a Coil and then playing Watcher to trigger the mirror entity. But this gives you a lot more flexibility if you play the Emperor now. It's just, you've got to be afraid of Frostbolt Fireball.
Yeah. The thing is, if you play the Emperor now, then you can almost guaranteed double Mountain Giant and Sunfury Protector and possibly heal even.
Uh-oh.
Or Lotheb. And he kind of calculated it in a way that there's no way for him to die unless it's Arcane Missiles, Frostbolt, and Fireball.
So do you trade the Shredder, get the Mad Scientist on the board? I mean, a secret from the Mad Scientist, and you Frostbolt that thing? Or again, do you keep that burn for the face? Always the same question seems to come back, is what do I do with my burn? I will need it.
Yeah. The burn is just a little more flexible in that you can either clear off your opponent's minions or go for the face. But we saw in a previous turn where... that's not a great one, but we saw in a previous turn where Dog, he had the opportunity to clear off a Twilight Drake with a Frostbolt, and he didn't go for it. And because he didn't want to give up his Frostbolt, he ended up paying an Azure Drake for the price.
Alright, so Lostov is definitely considering the double Molten Sun Fury play, which is kind of the obvious go-to. But the problem with that is, of course, that you could die to double Fireball 7/7. And based on your opponent's lines of play since the beginning of the game, you could assume there's some burn in his hand. Whether that means double Fireball or not is also something you have to wonder. So maybe just one Molten, you then maybe play another minion for 4, and you coil the Mad Scientist.
I'm not really sure you can play too much against double Fireball, though. This like almost guarantees the game unless there's double Fireball.
Or Fireball, Frostbolt.
Yes.
And there it is! Dog picks up the lethal. Off the top, he's like, I can't believe I just top decked my opponent. And Dog is gonna get away with the win here. He had a 1-outer, well, 2-outer with the other Frostbolt. But it was a really, really close game. I think both players played it pretty well. I mean, playing around Molten was... I mean, it was tough to make in that game, because I think smorking it would have been a pretty, comfortable position to put yourself in. But, you know, you gotta hit your outs still. It didn't look too good for Dog.
Like, I think even if Dog had... If Lostov had played the heal bot instead, was he at 7 or 8 mana last turn?
He would have been able to play Molten, heal bot, and then coil a minion.
Okay, but that still feels like he's dead, right?
Right, because there's 8
Fireball
on the board to the... Yeah, he would have died anyway. Yeah, as I said, Lostov's only hope, or at least his biggest hope, was that Dog just whiffed on burn, right? Didn't find the burn that he needed. Oh man, here we go. Dog has the ramp this time, so... Well, I don't know if we can consider Darnassus Aspirant ramp, but I will for the sake of this.
It's better than nothing, of course.
And it's actually, if he gets a whoa. 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 If Lostov doesn't put any pressure, these shades are just staying stealthed for, what, 7 turns?
Yeah, this is a pretty amazing hand.
Oh think. My god! He can ram it to a bigger minion if he finds one.
Wait, what do you even do here?
Oh, I just play 1. Do you want to play 2? Are you thinking of playing like double Darnassus Aspirant for 4 damage to face return? I mean, I could totally see that play.
Yeah, it's like you're guaranteed to have at least 1 survive unless he has Wrath.
Innervate Wrath. Yeah.
And in that scenario, you give up. It's like you're trading 3 cards for your opponent's 3 cards. So you don't actually end up that behind.
I think Dog's considering it. I've never actually been faced with a decision of going for all of those at the same time.
Exactly.
Wow, Dog is playing the conservative game. Mr. wants to just play a shade and try to let it grow as big as possible. Yeah. Alright,
it's kind of a strange world we live in where Innervate Shade is a conservative play. Whereas typically that would be a really aggressive play.
Right.
Oh, Lostov gets the Wild Growth though. So it's going to be a battle between Darnassus and Innervate versus Innervate and Wild Growth. And I kind of want to favor the Wild Growth here.
Yeah, Wild Growth is always better than Darnassus, unless you really need that 2/3 body on the board. And Dog was a very vocal proponent of cutting Darnassus Aspirants initially. When I talked to him, he's like, yeah, you kind of don't need that card. It's not very good. Very often you end up stuck with too much ramp. And look at you, Dog. Look at you, playing those double Darnassus.
Dog is just looking at his hand. He's like, oh, I should have listened to myself. Why am I getting myself in this position?
Yeah, why do I play this card?
Yeah, I think in the future, it might very well be that players are only running one of the Darnassus and not two.
Yeah, I think
in
that's what's
fact-
gonna happen in like a week or so. I think the metagame will shift to where one of them is cut.
It's basically kind of like a zombie chow in that
Yeah.
scenario, right?
Even worse, but yeah. Actually, Zombie Chow, I guess, is worse because it actually prevents lethals that you otherwise would get because of that little bit of extra healing. Is he gonna charge it in?
Where shall I strike?
No, he's not. Okay.
Oh, so here's an interesting one. Do you Keeper of the Grove your own Darnassus aspirant in order to get a pseudo walled growth?
I like that play, actually. I actually love that play. I think it's actually pretty cool because on turn 5 you can go Shade Rat to finish off the Druid of the Claw. I'm liking that. I mean, what does it not play around? Like, what really punishes you here on turn 5?
The biggest problem I have with that play is that there's already a Druid of the Claw on board, so your Keeper actually gets immediately challenged.
Killed, yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, it lets the opponent trade into it, and then you can play Wrath Shade, trade the Aspirant into the Druid, and still keep the mana, which you would have been happy to pay for Wild Growth that didn't even deal damage. So, in this case, the bonus damage from Aspirant is kind of a freebie. I don't know how to put it, but
yeah,
it's...
So it's kind of like you had a walled growth, but you lost some stats on the Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah, this is probably the much more consistent play, where you're not wasting resources and you're actually using the mana crystal that the Darnassus is granting you temporarily.
Yeah, and not only that, but now Dog has the opportunity to do the same exact play of silencing one of his Darnassus later on in the game. Like, if for some reason he got a really strong minion, like a turn 6 minion, or a turn 6 minion, that he could silence his own Darnassus aspirant, even though one will essentially die on Lostov's turn, and he could ramp up into 6 mana on his turn 6. On his actual turn 5. It's getting a little confusing with all the Darnassus aspirants.
Yeah, they're kind of like lowering the amount of the turns they're taking. It's speeding everything up. Dog has... I mean, there's a potential Lostov swipe here, just killing off everything. Yeah, I mean, Savage Roar also works perfectly fine, where you kill both Aspirants to deny a 6-drop. Not that you'd usually be worried about them, but it's enough that he can play a 5-drop, because if you kill both, then he's stuck on 4. And you're kind of forcing him to have a Shredder or a Keeper. Yeah, I think Dog's going to be happy to have 2 Stealthed Shades at the end of this turn. It's okay.
Yeah. Not only that, but it seems like Lostov, he doesn't really have any strong plays, even though he ramped up. It's not that you not only have to have the wall growth, but you need minions along with that. And it's just not shaping up that well from Lostov.
He needs to pick up a 5-drop or Emperor Thorson. Yeah, pretty dry draw, to say the least. But he gets to play his own Shade, and I guess it's okay. Yeah. So do you think Dog will simply keep these Shades stealthed until he finds combo? And he'll just go Keeper of the Grove to face here, just to have a minion that he can actually do stuff with? I imagine that's the case.
Yeah. Well, with this series of plays, as soon as you find combo, you win.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have no piece of them yet, and your card draw is pretty much non-existent. So is there an argument for unstealthing the 6/6?
I think if you unstealth one of them, you unstealth both of them.
Okay.
Since the answer to like one of them is the Keeper of the Grove. Oh, he actually doesn't unstealth the 4/4. Like, if he had unstealthed the 4/4 as well, then Lostov wouldn't be able to Keeper both of them.
That's a good point. You're forcing him to spread around the removal.
Mm-hmm. But then again, there's also the answer of you Keeper the first one, then you run your own Shade into the second one and hero powered down. Yeah.
I think Dog's point is I want to unstealth them just before they're BGHable, but also at the point where they're threatening. So he wants Lostov to be able to force... He wants to force Lostov to use costly removal to deal with the Shades, as opposed to using something cheap like a BGH that lets him play tempo behind. Yeah, I think that's the reasoning the Dog's getting here, because this Shade is... I mean, a 6/6 is just annoying enough. Just annoying enough.
I think it's also that when you force your opponent to Keeper the Grove on this turn, it means he can't Ancient of Lore, he can't Ancient of War. So he's essentially denying Lostov that key turn.
Oh man, speaking of BGH. Alright, Dog has the opportunity to go for his own keeper. If he wants to. I assume he will. Just a Keeper of the Grove, trade Shade, and then... Or do you just full face with this?
I like face.
You like face? Okay. Sounds good, Monk. We'll listen to you.
Oh.
I needed a coach, by the way. Do you suggest face?
That's always the place, I feel. Like, I'm not really, like, playing too defensively. I'm not sure what that does. Oh, okay.
Alright, that's really honest. That's a really honest play. Wow,
So,
okay. I'm considering you need to play something else here if you're unstealthing the Shade. There's no way you don't play at least one more card.
Yeah. So with this play, I think he's going with the same game plan. He, like, denied a turn 7 play from Lostov. So he's basically saying, I don't want you to play a turn 7 yet again. I'm going to force you to play either a Wrath or a Swipe.
Oh man, the Savage Roar could have been disgusting if there wasn't an answer from Lostov this turn, but Dog's still getting a ticket to more face damage, and the moment he finds combo, I think, unless another taunt comes down from Lostov, he's the one who's going to be ahead. Oh. He's considering popping the Shredder. Alright, so...
The trade just seems too good here, almost.
Yeah, because you keep the Drake, and he's already used up a Wrath and a Swipe. 2 Wraths. Oh, Dog feeding the Drake into the Succubus. And this is how dreams are made and destroyed. Oh my god, Lostov with the full clear Keeper Innervate if he wants it. There we go. That's right, Lostov. Show him who's boss.
Show him who's the Druid King. Yeah, it seemed to be that Dog was the, he was the one that had the initiative the entire game, but he kind of gave up the Shades.
Yeah, I feel like that second Shade, maybe trading into the 2-4 wasn't necessary, but you were talking about how it was maybe weird for him to surrender the initiative on its use.
Yeah. The other thing to consider is Lostov, if he didn't have minions to, like, swipe and Wrath, then a lot of his plays would be inefficient. Like, Dog basically gave Lostov, like, plays to make.
Exactly, that he didn't have otherwise.
His hand was full of, like, Wraths and swipes, whereas, like, if he didn't unveil the Shades, Lostov's turns would be something like Pilot Shredder, Hero Power.
Yeah, Dog didn't know that. He thought there were minions in there, and he tried to keep denying plays by just playing stuff and forcing his opponent to use removal or playing minions from behind. But it turned out that what actually happened is it gave Lostov options that he otherwise didn't have. Oh man, oh man. The pressure is mounting up from Lostov's side. Look at that, there's like 8... He's dead to Savage Roar, pretty much. He's dead to Force of Nature as well.
Oh!
Wow, Dog
key.
with a crazy card. Wow, hello. Why are you floating up there? He can attack this turn.
Oh, man. But not really, since
Well,
it's enough charge.
No, yeah, poor 2-4.
Yep.
It's still pretty cool, though.
It's still pretty good. It challenges the VGH.
Well, that's going to give Lostov again another crazy turn of initiative. However, he's taking a bit more damage. If Dog picks up Force of Nature here, this is it. This is
Oh! Wait, is that's it, right? Oh no, he's gonna go for the trade.
Yeah, he absolutely has to make the trade here. He has no choice. Dog will probably try to draw his combo as soon as possible. He'll be able to attack with the 2-4 and his hero power. Force of Nature gets picked up. Lostov is going to need a miracle here, and the miracle is probably going to involve Force of Nature, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Dog just make the trades to avoid a complete blowout. He doesn't mind dying to Savage Roar.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Wait, so...
15 damage. Oh god. 16 damage. Boombots could steal this if you trade properly.
Do you go for that?
Actually, I think Force of Nature clear might be the better play, right? I don't know, because you have Boombots to help.
Yeah, I think if I were in Lostov position, I would definitely not try to play around the Force of Nature Savage Roar combo, because if you played around that, you'd have to hope for ridiculous Boombots. He tested it though, and
Like, could I have gone for it? Could I have tried? Alright, so Lostov's going in, and Dog is like, yep, still a good Druid player, and I will simply combo you down. And he's going to be able to take the series with that last play.
Yeah, really back and forth there. finishing it off with the combo, of course. And I actually really liked how the Druid Mirror has really evolved since the addition of Darnassus Aspirant, because before there were really a limited number of permutations, whereas now there's like 3 ways to ramp, and those 3 ways all interact really in interesting ways, basically. Druid Mirror used to be one of my least favorite matchups. In fact, it was my least favorite matchup.
It was my least favorite as well. I agree.
But I definitely think it's a little better now.
Yeah, it's a lot better. I love it. I think it's cool to see people try to actually make the whole Darnassus Aspirant work, with or without Wild Growth, deciding whether or not they want to keep one or the other, in which order they play them as well. And interestingly enough, we're still very early after TGT, so I'm sure players are still arguing over which one is better. I think there's still some discussion on that matter. So yeah, hopefully Druid Mirrors stay as interesting as they were today. I mean, double Darnassus opener.
Yeah. Dog, of course, he's the first person to advance from this group, and kudos for him. Americans are kind of dominating recently.
They're doing fine, yeah.
Yeah, even though Firebat kind of did not make it through out of his group yesterday.
Yeah, so basically what that means for Dog is that he's going straight to the LAN finals, which means he's got one of the 6 reserved spots for that position, and that's basically putting him in the top 6 of the entire event. There's going to be a last chance qualifier for those who dropped out, which is going to take place over the next few weeks. The tournament is going to take place in October, but we still have to figure out who's going to go through. We have one more spot to actually determine today. The next match is going to be Stansivka versus Kucha, and then whoever wins that one is going to face off against Lostov. It's going to be bittersweet if Kucha ends up beating Stansivka, because it's going to be a team kill for the spot in the LAN finals. But, you know, if they get 2 players in with the addition of Stanudashi, they're going to feel pretty okay with it. Yeah, got to feel good when you've got 2 people on the same team going forward. So, that being said, we'll take a 10 minutes break before the next match. So, until then, don't go anywhere.